Hello, guys. Welcome to the Top 10 Movies of the Decade podcast presented to you by the Movie Club. I am your co host, Sidharth, and I have with me Brahmini and Arya. So, today we're going to go from like top 10 to 1 about what we think are the best movies of the decade. We're going to go through every movie and tell you why we thought it was the best movie of the decade. So, yeah, starting off, the 10th best movie of the decade, and we have chosen Get Out.
Get Out. So, Get Out has a very basic premise: an African American man going to meet his Caucasian girlfriend's parents. And the premise is simple, but there's so many genres. It can be taken as a satirical black comedy, it can be a modern horror film. Like, we can see the eeriness so clearly. And I think it's very clever how Jordan Peele has managed to integrate all these genres into the film. Like, even the timing's so good. Like, the scares are scary and the jokes are funny, and even when we are laughing at it, we can see the underlying, the undercurrent of the unfairness and the kind of discrimination that has become a part of our lives. And the film really struck a chord, and it was a surprise as well.
I mean, like
Yeah.
you've seen Peel like doing all these comedy stints with his partner, and then you like suddenly
Yeah.
see him as a director, and then it's like really good for your first time movie director.
Yeah,
So
like
didn't
I
expect
think
him
this
to
is
make such a
his
debut.
first movie
Hmm.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, also the fact that
Okay.
this movie is being taught in universities because of its like metaphorical connection to modern prison industrial complex or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, that's the impact that it had on
Yeah.
movie culture as a whole.
I mean, in the film, we can actually, the eeriness gets to us, and we can like see the elements of unfairness, and that they've been so rooted, and yet it's entertaining. Like, you don't expect how the movie takes, like,
Hmm.
so don't want to spoil it in case anybody didn't watch it already. So the ninth movie.
Yeah, so the ninth best movie of the decade for us is an Indian movie. It's called Ship of Theseus. Now, the Ship of Theseus is about this Theseus paradox. It's basically about this question that if you replace every part of your body with some other part, are you still fundamentally the same person? And if you take all these parts and then create a new one, create a new whole body, is that you, or is this one you? So it basically talks about how change affects a person and how a person can still remain the same going through all the changes because he tries to keep up with all the societal standards and because he tries to achieve his dreams and stuff like that. And I think the movie asks like all these philosophical questions, but it's like plain and simple, and you just like really connect with the movie because of how well it's been acted out and how well it's been phased out and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've picked an
It's a
Indian.
surprisingly indie Indian movie.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
it's
Like
like,
it's an indie Indian movie. It's not like one of these Bollywood movies that you watch or any Indian movies that you watch. It comes from a relatively lesser known director and producer, and I think they've done a brilliant job for first time filmmakers.
I like love how the place has been integrated into the story. I always like when the place becomes a character, and this movie does that. Like,
Hmm.
it's such an old concept, the thesis paradox, and this is a new take on that. And it was a surprise, and I honestly loved it actually.
Right. I mean, it's a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on to our eighth best film of the decade, we've chosen They Should Not Grow Old. So They Should Not Grow Old is this documentary. It's this documentary which like basically has the narrations and the audio and video recordings of people who fought in the First World War. So I mean, the one reason that I personally liked it is because it tells us about the First World War, which usually you don't see or hear a lot about in media or any other forms of content channels and stuff like that. And I mean, it talks about people's personal experience. It gives you the realistic experience, and it talks about a lot of stuff. It's not just about us going into the battlefield and stuff like that. It goes from the enrollment to the whole thing, and there's a lot of banter as well. There are people laughing, there are people telling all funny stories about how everything is. How what a soldier goes through when he's in war and stuff like that. And I think that's the reason I really love this movie, and for I think it's one of the best movies of the decade.
I feel like it was a very good
I was
pick
actually surprised. Yeah.
because of the fact it showed reality over the other war movies, which has a lot of action just for the sake of action and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like surprised, he made the Lord of the Rings, like he made the Lord of the Rings, and then there's like King Kong, and this is on a wholly different level. They shall not grow old, and
Yeah.
yeah, obviously the real portrayal gets to us, and like you said, the World War One is spoken less of. It actually has a very strong emotional impact, like connects
Hmm.
on a personal level. I liked it too.
I mean, you have a lot of movies talking about
Yeah.
psychological effects of war, like Full Metal Jacket, and some like I don't know, Apocalypse Now and Fury and stuff like that. But I think this one actually captures. I mean, it tells you exactly what
Yeah,
they're going through.
because
Like,
of the narration and
Yeah.
everything from
yeah,
Like
soldiers.
yeah,
yeah, it's like insider jokes and everything,
yeah,
I guess, like
exactly, yeah, yeah,
struggles, jokes, the bonding. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so all right. Moving
So
on to our seventh best film of the decade. We've chosen Boyhood.
So, Boyhood premise is very simple. It follows the journey of a boy from a 6-year-old boy until he turns 18. And it's the filmmaking that transforms this tale. Like it's like in epic proportions because it was actually filmed through 12 years using the same set of actors. Like there are a lot of characters in the film, and I think almost each character shapes the life of this person. And it's simple things. When they say Boyhood, they talk about just normal regular things that we see in our lives and we see in the lives of others. And I guess it's how relatable the movie is that gets to us. And that's a very brave thing to do, I guess, shooting over 12 years with the same actors. Anything could have happened. And yeah.
I, I mean, yeah, that's the most fascinating part about it. The fact that it was shot with the same actors for 12 different years. I mean, and also the fact that it was only shot for like 45 days. It was shot over 12 years, but it's only like
Yeah.
45. So, yeah, I mean, like,
It, I think it captures like growing up very authentically because the actor is also growing up with the movie. So
hmm,
Yeah, they
yeah,
say even the actors were a part of the writing of the film, like the director sat with them as they grew and they tried to like mold the story. He had a basic plot line and then the journey
hmm,
is basically of all of them. And it's a beautiful portrayal and the story in itself gets to us actually. It stays with us even after we leave it, like just like a tale, like nice.
I mean, like, everybody who goes through that phase, I mean, should connect to that film because, like, it shows you exactly what you go through.
We never
Yeah.
disconnect from it, even if it's in episodes like earwise and all.
Hmm.
Great story.
Yeah. All right. So, moving on to our sixth best film of the decade, we're going with Dunkirk.
okay, Dunkirk is a Christopher Nolan pick. Um, it's a war movie. It talks about the Battle of France, which was a turning point in WW2. It talks about the
Yeah.
retreat from Battle of France. The battlefield in Dunkirk, as portrayed, is messy. Is very high tension. Uh, the visual and auditory storytelling is awesome. It's like fantastic to watch it on a big screen type of thing. Uh, it's told from 3 points of view. There is the beach, the military, the evacuation, and then the air fights, dog fights.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
It's like a larger than life thing and yet rooted kind of.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
Yeah, you were
loud. I
saying?
think the actors were talking about how loud it is, like when they
uh,
first watched it in the premiere. Uh, Nolan has made a name for himself for realism. Like here, I think in the Spitfire scene, he lands Tom Hardy's Spitfire on Dunkirk Beach, and they had to get it done within 1 hour because of a tide coming in.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's
Nolan realism, they're like, yeah, sorry. Go
no.
on.
I'm just saying it's like it's so fascinating the three point of view things. I mean, like you don't understand it when you actually watch the film, but apparently the way it works is that the thing in air happens only for 1 hour. The thing in sea happens for like a
Yeah.
day or something, and the thing on land happens for a week. So it's like it just beautifully connects, and then at the end you have all of them like converge.
Overlaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also like unlike
Nolan films
other
always have to be rewatched.
Yeah, and unlike other Nolan films, there's not a lot of exposition or stuff like that. There's no explanation or something. It's just like chaos everywhere, and you still love it.
There is no sci-fi. There is no that kind
Yeah,
of thing. It's just
yeah. This is basically
Yeah,
exactly what is happening, what must have happened at that time. Yeah, yeah.
true.
All right. Moving on to our fifth best film of the decade, we're going with 12 Years a Slave. Um,
So, 12 Years a Slave is again from a memoir. And I think it gets you with a visceral force from the start. It's the story of an individual who's a free individual, and suddenly he's dragged into slavery. He doesn't expect this, and he can't get accustomed to this life. The best part is it's the fight, whatever, everything that happens in the story. And even though we can see it and we know it's true, what remains with us is the kind of fight the person has to live a free life. And 12 Years a Slave is about a single individual, and at the same time it's also about an entire institution, I guess, an entire time frame. And it's another story that's just stayed with me for a long time. And the screenplay is so good. It holds you to your seat for, you never miss an instant, and you're always feeling emotions. And I just the film caught me, like, really.
I mean, yeah, it's
12
like,
Yeah.
Years a Slave. I watched it when I was a little kid, and to me, it was like one of those movies that puts. It takes you for an emotional ride. It takes you on an emotional ride that ends in a catharsis like Shawshank or Pursuit of Happiness. It's a very memorable movie to me.
uh,
I mean, like you
yeah.
watch other,
I mean, there are a lot of films that, yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So there are other films of basic
I was saying the same thing, yeah.
Mudbound or something like that, but I think this one tells you like exactly what happened. I mean, not exactly what happens, but it's like the most deep-rooted, realistic like portrayal of what could possibly go
Yeah.
wrong, and like, yeah,
I mean, the white people are good too, the bad people, and even though they want to help, it explains the situation of everybody, at that
hmm,
time, the
yeah,
kind of pressure they had, or then the bad people as well, people who don't want to help, people who consider that to be the way of life. And
hmm,
I guess the only thing that stayed with me is the struggle. Like, he wants to be free, and the kind of determination he has to be free again.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's a marvelous film, one of the
yeah.
best.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So moving on to our fourth best film of the decade, we've chosen Leviathan.
Okay, so Leviathan is a Russian pick. Andrei Zhigov is probably the most important Russian director of today. There's another very famous movie is The Return. I think a lot of people might not have watched it because of its Russian, that not well known like Hollywood is. The movie, it flows like a Dostoevsky novel. It has biblical imagery, very strong storytelling. The screenplay is a rework of the Book of Job, which is the old Bible of Jews. It's set in a politically corrupt Russia. I think that is something Indians will be able to relate. It's divided into three acts with two sub themes in every act. It's like a Shakespearean tragedy.
I mean, yeah, the relationship
Yeah.
between like, I mean,
It's
it
a very
shows you.
powerful film, actually.
Hmm. It sort of
Yeah,
shows you how
Sidharth.
all the relations falter and stuff like that when there's a higher authority like on you and they want to like do what they want. It just shows the political like the corrupt political structure and how how that affects your family, how that affects your work life and stuff like that. So I mean, it's like very realistic.
Yeah.
Nice. It shows you properly what happens because of all the other
I mean, it was
external.
kind of bleak, but it was also beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I say it was like bleak, but it was also beautiful. And actually, that dread stays with you as you watch the film. And yeah, I don't want, okay, no spoilers.
The tonality is bleak. It's supposed to be bleak. So,
Yeah, yeah, I
it's
guess
I
beautiful.
mean,
that's
agree.
part of
Yeah.
attraction of the film. But every scene's beautiful, though. Bleak and beautiful. Next movie, the
Oh
third
yeah.
one.
Yeah, so the second best film of the decade for us
The third
is
one.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. Yeah, so the third best, the third best movie of the decade for us would be
Moonlight.
Moonlight. Yeah,
Moonlight.
Moonlight. Right, Moonlight.
Okay, so Moonlight is a pretty famous movie, but it's a story of empathy, identity, and masculinity. That's the way I'll put out the movie. Uh, there is drug dealers, but it's not that kind of a gangster or story between law enforcement and drug dealers. It's more like the Wire type of social analysis type thing. It's I think it was a very good movie of empathy per se to me. That was it was all about.
It was made on a very low budget, I think, actually, and yet it made such a big impact. Best Picture.
Yeah, it is
It,
just
yeah,
1.5 million. Well, that is I think the lowest ever if you account for inflation, and if you don't, then Rocky is the lowest one at 1.1.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it
And
did win the
true.
Best Picture in 2016. I mean, like nobody can forget the
Yeah,
fiasco there when they gave it to La La La. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And I think they
yeah,
totally deserved
And
it over La La
truly.
Land.
yeah. True. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
truly.
Yeah. I mean, it has like people living in harsh conditions and humiliation, and then growing beyond their experience. It's like captures the bond between people beautifully and true.
Yeah. I
Really,
mean,
it's another movie that stays with you even after you're done watching it.
I think this is like one of those movies which would be in everybody's top 10 movies of the decade. I mean, this one would be like indisputable, something like that, because like I think
Yeah,
this is like
Subject
consensus at this
content,
point.
everything.
Yeah, yeah,
right. Three of us did agree to for starters.
yeah, yeah. All right, yeah.
Okay.
So
So second
moving on
movie.
to our second best movie of the decade, we're going with the Netflix original Roma.
Okay, Alfonso Cuarón's direction. I think he's the best director of the decade. A lot of people might not have watched Roma, but I think they have watched his other movies like Gravity. This is set in a politically tense Mexico, 1972 1971, but that's not important. It's, uh, it's about his family, his growing up with, and it focuses on their maid Cleo, who still lives with Cuarón. Like Curon has put in a lot of effort to make it real. It's shot in the streets of Mexico City. He has brought in furniture from I think all over his family. The shots are all over his from his family all over Mexico. The shots are beautiful. The composition, the blocking. I think the beauty takes it away fully. It didn't get it got some Oscar nomination, but not in the Cannes. Sadly, that year Netflix OTTs as such were banned in Cannes. So, but I think it's beautiful and something to watch.
Yeah. I guess it's shot in black and white, right? And I never noticed detail as much in color films as I did in like this film. You know, like almost everything stands out, even though there's no color. And actually, we never feel that. You know, the contrast is beautiful,
Mm.
and
And
it basically concentrates on the people, even though the surroundings are
Yeah,
tense.
the
And
panning is
yeah,
definitely awesome. The black and white is supposed to represent memory in the film.
makes sense. I mean, like
yeah,
it probably does, but I mean, there is. It's like the other movies like Lighthouse by Eggers. I mean, they show everything in black and white. You wonder why they do that, but when you actually watch those films, it feels like the black and white is a lot better than color would ever have to be, just because like it shows it's like proper. It's apt
it's
for
different, right?
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
it's apt
Schindler's
for
List on
whatever.
that black and white thing, but
Yeah,
even more crispier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one way to put it. Crispier.
yeah.
Yeah,
We can say that, yeah.
yeah, and
And it's the same director who shot Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
he is.
Like
Yeah, he's got a
he's
lot
a
of movies under.
Gravity, and there's such a wide range of films.
Yeah, another movie
Yeah,
that
I
like
think Children of Men,
Children of Men. Yeah,
fantasy.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So All right. So yeah, seeing a lot of we've been seeing a rise in movies on like OTTs and stuff like that. A lot of
Yeah.
Netflix originals and Prime originals and stuff, and like this and Marriage Story and other movies like these. I mean, I
It's not
think,
just movie. I think Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all that has brought TV shows as an art form to the
hmm,
audience.
hmm,
Like if you
makes
look
sense.
at back at
And
the
true,
decade,
like
I think stuff like Breaking Bad will absolutely just take it.
Yeah, agreed.
yeah, OTT has become such an integral part of our lives to say so. Like
Yeah,
especially in the lockdown, I guess it's such a highlight.
yeah,
See how
yeah.
it's
So
taken over our lives, if we can say that.
right, right. So yeah, all right. Moving on to our best film of the decade. What we think is the best film of the decade is Mad Max: Fury Road. Not a lot of
Undisputed.
surprises. Yeah, and I mean, for arguably the greatest action film of all time. It's got amazing action scenes. It talks about this post-apocalyptic world, like dystopian and stuff. And it talks about basically like how one person, when there are lack of amenities, like there is I mean, people don't have enough stuff. It's just that people can be manipulated so easily into believing in a higher power of some sort, making men more than mortal and stuff like that, and then making people do whatever you want them to do just because like what could happen in the future when there is lack of amenities and stuff like that. So yeah, it
Yeah.
really I mean,
The
apart from
director
all the
gave
action
20
and
years
stuff.
of his life.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And apparently he the inspiration for the movie was the fact that there were like a lot of car accidents in Australia. That's the reason he did a lot of car yeah,
Okay.
I
yeah.
love the soundtrack of the
Right.
movie. It's like,
Hmm.
someone take a death metal
Oh
thing like
yeah, it's
Megadeth and puts it out totally there,
Exactly.
makes a
And
movie out of it. It feels like that.
yeah, and all those guys with guitars and stuff, they're going to war
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. That
and so
chase
yeah,
scene with the guitar, it
I
was
know, yeah,
definitely like that.
yeah. And also the chase
and
when
the cinematography is also very good.
exactly like during the chase
Yeah,
when
yeah.
there's
Sorry, you
like
were saying
after yeah, I'm just saying the chase when there
the
was after Furiosa and stuff
canyon.
like that. That's just like an amazing sequence that is just like brilliantly captured. Great cinematography, great everything. Honestly, like over the top. It's
Also,
like
it's got
grand.
a yeah,
Yeah,
it's
go
got
on.
a very feminist string to it. Like it's even though it's Mad Max Fury, it's more about Furiosa and the other five women.
Mad Max is a small
I guess
character
from the
there, sub
previous
character.
Yeah, I I
yeah
mean
from the previous Mad Max films, it's like moved away.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Yeah,
makes
as
sense.
if
Yeah.
yeah. You were
Max
saying
meets
Siddharth.
someone and the story is about them and Max is narrating it. It
Yeah, I mean,
flows like that.
it just
Yeah.
starts off with like it it sounds like he's like the moral compass of the show, like the Tom Hardy or something like that. But you eventually figure out that it's
Uh-huh.
actually Furiosa who's driving the whole plot and stuff like that, and Mad Max is just to aid her in whatever way possible. Yeah, so great movie, great action film, and
Best soundtrack too.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So
so
we're
yeah,
done with the
so
10 films.
right, yeah. We hope you liked our choice. I mean, you probably have like one or two problems. We're okay with that. These are just films that we think are the best movies of the decade. And yeah, we if there are any movies from this list that you haven't watched, you should because like these are really good movies. And yeah, I mean, it'll be great watch. And we hope that it inspires you to watch these movies. So that's all
Thank
from
you.
my side. That's all from our
See
side.
you guys.
And yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
See you.